It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping to crying to potty training to choosing a preschool and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world you might be. How is everybody this morning? Welcome to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I am so excited you could be with us. Thanks for tuning in. And I have two great guests today. It's the first Wednesday in May, and you know what that means. Connie Gruning from peanutbutterandwine.com. What's hot and what's not in May, and she's got some great things on her site. And then Dr. Robert Melillo will be on. He is the author of a wonderful book called The Disconnected Kids Nutrition Plan. It's proven strategies to enhance learning and focus for children with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, other neurological disorders. And you know what? His nutritional plan is great because in the back of this book, there's all kinds of wonderful recipes, brownies, vegetables. Anyway, we're going to talk with him about picky eaters, food allergies, and so much more. But first, we're going to be talking to Connie. And there were no recalls this morning. I looked yesterday. I looked today. However, if you go to mybestparentingadvice.com and go to the recall page, check it out because I put the weekly recalls on there. And please, please, please don't try to fix anything. Accidents happen in seconds. And I just have to share this really quickly. If you're a parent and you have a little one, when you are with them, the no phone zone, put your phone down, put your cooking down, put your everything down. My grandson swallowed a button battery, and Daddy was right next to him playing with him. And this battery fell out of this thing. We didn't even know had a battery in it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but anyway, in 2 seconds, he had swallowed one of these little batteries, and it can be very, very devastating. Fortunately, Alex is fine. He did have to have it surgically removed from his tummy. You know, no lasting effects. He was lucky because it went down. You know, apparently if this button battery gets stuck in the trachea, it has a chemical reaction with the saliva and it can burn the trachea and the esophagus and all kinds of devastating things. He's fine. But my point is that I have to say this. It's so scary because as new parents, you know, you've never done this job and you don't know. It takes 2 seconds for something to happen, even though you might be standing right there. So better to not be, you know, using your phone or multitasking. And also they grow up so fast. So enjoy every minute with your little ones. Anyway, happy ending. Just to share, I had to tell everyone because it's so important. So before I say any more, I'm going to give the radio show to Connie Gruning from Peanut Butter and Wine. And, you know, I've given up giving your bio, and you change your picture every month, and it's beautiful, and you change all kinds of things, and it's so much fun and wonderful. So, Connie, you're on. Tell us what's hot and what's not in May, because Mother's Day and then Father's Day, and then, you know what, there's a lot of babies born. So your turn.
Lots of babies. Yay. Well, I'm so glad that Alex is okay because that is scary. Being a grandparent is just as stressful as being a mommy and a daddy.
No kidding. I didn't think that.
We get all the fun stuff, but we still stress. So one of the things I have is to get the kids outside for the summer. And I have, from Orkin, one of the coolest sets. This is going to get you, it's a bug collection kit. It's got butterfly nets. It has little jars, specimen jars, so that you can take it and you can look and you can do a catch and release. The little bugs that come with this are also glow in the dark. Ooh. This would be a great thing to do, especially if you live somewhere where they have lightning bugs. That would be so fun to go outside and catch some lightning bugs. Here we're just going to catch flies, probably.
Yeah, we will too, or snakes, or scorpions.
Oh, there you go. Oh.
We don't want
Maybe
those.
better we're going to take Mom and Dad with us when we do that,
yes.
when that walk. I also have a $250 Visa card giveaway, and this is from Home Selfie, and you're not going to go outside, and you're not going to take a picture of yourself or your home. It's actually just a 5-minute quiz that's going to tell you ways to save money on your electricity, of keeping your home safe and warm, and it's a super easy thing. And I got a lot of hints that I hadn't thought of. And with my savings, I was saving $168 a year, so that's pretty darn good for me.
For anybody.
We're retired. Yeah, We're retired. We're on a budget now, so anytime I can save money and spend it on the grandkids, I'm happy.
That's right.
We have a Mother's Day giveaway that I joined forces with a bunch of other bloggers, and this one has there's 8 different winners for this, and it's going to be things for the new mommy. Actually, some that aren't really for the new mommy. There's leggings and there's jewelry, and that's another one. That's going to end in 5 days, so get that one in. And then I have one for dads, which I think is going to be a hoot and a half. It's a year's supply of bow ties.
A lifetime. I saw that. If you're listening, go to peanutbutterandwine, WHINE.com, and check out these bow ties. I thought this was great.
Seriously. And I think it's funny. I think if you're going to give Dad a lifetime supply of something, bow ties are going to be the way to go. You're going to get all the new and different designs every year. So this would be good. Plus, you have kids that come, and I'm sorry, but a little boy in a little bow tie is just super, super cute.
It is super cute. And you know what? Little girls like to play dress up, too, if they're old enough, around 4 or 5, 6 years old. Not for the little ones. You don't want them to strangle themselves, God forbid. We have the most extensive supply of dress-up dresses here. Alice she's 4, she's going to be 5 next month, and she absolutely adores dress-up. So and I go to places like Costume Discounters, and they will give you such a supply of dress-up clothes. You think of them as just costumes, but these are really, really well-made dresses. There's also another place online that does, let me see if I probably can't find it, and I didn't even think to have it up. It's a dress-up place. It's a green sparkle dress that is under $20, and it's just full of tulle and layers of lace, and it's so pretty that Alice calls it her Tiana dress. How cute. Alice is Connie's granddaughter, and she's so cute. Mm-hmm. Is she on with us today, or do you not have her?
She is still asleep.
Oh, that's good. Although I miss hearing her talk to you. Hey, what's this?
She has a new thing now. Yesterday I yelled at her for not listening, and she gave me that look, and then she came and put her head on my shoulder and said, "But do you still love me?" Oh, kid, you're killing me. Go away.
That's the grandma part. What is this cool book, My Amazing Dad?
Oh, My Amazing Dad is such a cute book. It's about a dad that is not handy. He is not handy anywhere around the house. He can't mow the lawn. He can't fix the sink or the plumbing issue, which made Alice and I laugh because my daughter's house is in complete disarray because the plumbing under the slab has had to be fixed and put up in the rafters. So, I mean, she's got huge holes in the ceiling and then in all of this, the daddy decided he was going to change out the sink. Well, it took the daddy a little bit longer than it should have because he didn't know how, but he did it and it works just fine. So I had Alice I was hoping during the video that she would say that, that daddy fixed the sink and he did a good job. Instead, she said that she likes that her daddy is amazing because he takes her to the park every day. And I said, when she started the video, I was going to cut it out, but I left it in. She goes, "This is Alice from Peanut Butter and Wine." And I go, "Are you the wine?" And she goes, "No, I'm the peanut butter. You're the wine." And I go, "Oh, great. I get to be the whiny one." And she goes, "What? You like to drink wine?"
I think we talked about this when we did the grandma show, that as soon as you say you need to keep a secret, it's the first thing that comes out.
Yes. I learned something else from Facebook.
Oh, what?
And I really hadn't thought of this, is don't teach your daughters that the boy hits you because he likes you. Because that just starts
interesting.
a whole cycle of abuse. Or it could put it in their mind that he hits me because he likes me.
You know what? Isn't that interesting? Because that's what boys always do when they're young. They hit the girls, but
Yes.
I would have never thought of that either.
No, me either. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's not do that one.
Yeah, let's teach the boys better. I mean, you know, you hear of when the kids are little and they don't know what they're doing and they smack you because they don't know. They hit things. And parents,
Right.
you know, parents gently hit them back. It's like, what are you teaching your child to hit?
Exactly.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that. No.
Yeah.
And I had not thought of that as having that little tiny pebble in the back of a girl's mind. Having come from an abusive relationship, is that something that it triggers in there that, that's why? It just was it was eye-opening, and it was just, wow, hadn't thought of it that way before.
We never know. We never know when the seed is planted and you come back. You don't know. I mean, we're brought up, my generation, you're brought up, you get married, you you do the house, the husband goes to work, you raise the kids. Well, forget that now. That isn't the way it is, and that isn't the way it worked out for me exactly. I'm really happy, but that isn't the way it worked out. And you look back and go, that wasn't quite right. What about Dad pitching in? And what about sharing? And, the division of labor is a lot different now, and it should be.
It should be. It should be. And I saw a T-shirt on a man that says, "It's not babysitting when I'm with my kids. It's called parenting." But
That's
yeah.
funny.
Why do we let Dad be the babysitter? Dad's not a babysitter. Dad's a parent. He doesn't have to
Connie,
babysit.
thanks for being on. Have a wonderful, happy Mother's Day, and I will talk to you in June.
Awesome. Happy Mother's Day.
Take care now. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
My baby love, I need you. Oh, I need you.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
It's words you never heard.
The word perfume comes from the Latin perfumum, which means through smoke. Eau de Cologne comes from the name of a town in Germany where this type of perfume originated. The French say the only reason to wear perfume is to attract the opposite sex. Oh, and never ask a French woman what scent she wears, as they prefer to keep it hugger-mugger or secret. Perfumes are generally made from bits and bats of different materials that have unique scents. If women are trying to attract men, why do we wear perfume that smells like flowers? I think we'd get more guys if we smelled like bacon. The best advice for applying perfume is just a dabble do. What's a word for a trifling amount? Hitherx sans kiterax.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. The hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you are a listener each week, you know I have lots of wonderful guest experts, and I have another one today. His name is Dr. Robert Melillo. He is an internationally known chiropractic, neurologist, professor, researcher, and expert in childhood neurological disorders. His first book, Disconnected Kids, a groundbreaking brain balance program for children with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and other neurological disorders. And the book is great, and I can't wait for him to tell you about all his centers and what he's doing. He's been in private practice since 1985 and created the Brain Balance Program. Dr. Melillo is also the president of the Foundation for Cognitive Neuroscience and the executive director of the F.R. Carrick Institute for Clinical Ergonomics Rehab and Applied Neurosciences. It's a nonprofit university-based brain research center dedicated to researching methods and products to assist victims of brain injury, chronic pain, and other neurological and neurobehavioral challenges. And he lives in New York with his wife and 3 children. And I have to tell you, Dr. Melillo, thank you for being my guest. Welcome to the show. This book is so great. I love the recipes. I love everything about your centers. And, you know, it really got me thinking. I know you deal with children, but my mom just had a stroke a number of weeks ago. And it's interesting watching, unfortunately, you know, she's elderly, but watching the differences in the brain function. And
yes,
it's amazing. And when you have this wonderful program for these children that, you know, they can be helped without throwing all these meds at them all the time. To me, that's scary because I work in a preschool, and I know a lot of the children, you know, are on some medications, even as early as 4 and 5 years old. So why, you know, I was listening to the song Chicken Fried by the Zac Brown Band last night. That is tell my listeners about that and about how you started this.
Well, you know, it's as you said, you know, the what's happening right now with our kids is really a big issue. But you know, what really started this all for me was me as a parent. That my oldest son, you know, I was told that he had some issues when he was around 5 or 6, and at the same time, I had some other friends, and you know, my background has always been neurology and rehabilitation, and I was already, you know, academically involved with teaching about the brain and rehabilitation and neurology and clinical neurology. And I already knew a lot about the brain, but I had really focused mostly on adults at that point. And then this was around 1994, 1995, you know, someone came and said, you know, what can we do other than medication for ADHD? Can you help us out? So, you know, when my son when his teacher said he may have some issues, and you know, I really started looking into it, and really, you know, what it all started with the question of what is ADHD, what is happening in the brain, and at the time, no one could really answer that question for me, and there wasn't a lot known about it, but yet, you know, we had seen that the use of Ritalin had gone up from 1990 to 95, 250%, but no one could explain why. So, you know, that started my whole career going down the road, really trying to figure out and interacting with other researchers and coming up with the answer. And the answer is that there's a problem in the brain called functional disconnection. And that is the same problem in not only in ADHD, but also in OCD and Tourette's. That's one of the reasons why 80% of kids that have ADHD have at least one other label, usually Tourette's and or OCD. And we know it's the same problem in autism. It's the same problem in dyslexia. They manifest differently. And so, you know, going down the road, my focus was not just simply to understand what the problem was, but really to be able to come up with a solution for my own child and for my own kids and for other kids that were struggling. And that's really where this has all gone. And, you know, we started centers in 2000, I've had a center that I've been, working with in New York since 1995, but we started to develop centers outside of New York in 2006, 2007. And by 2008, we had about 3 centers down in Atlanta. And they were, really making a big difference. And so Zach Brown is from that area. And at that point, he hadn't released Chicken Fried. He had, no record deal at that time. He was a well-known local musician, but he had already been formulating plans, and he'd already purchased land to build a camp for kids with disabilities and kids without disabilities. And the reason for that was that he had gone to a camp like that when he was a kid. And the whole story's in the book. People can read it. But, it was a really interesting story where, he was a kid. He went to a camp, and there were basically 2 disabled kids, like kids with autism, with 6 typical kids in a cabin. And the other kids would take care of the kids that were a disability. And he said that, sitting around a campfire, playing country music, cooking food, and taking care of kids with disabilities became the most important things in his life.
Wow. Nice.
And so, he tracked me down in 2008 and said, "Can you help me with this camp I'm building?" And I said, "Sure." And we became friends. And, lo and behold, in 2009, he released Chicken Fried, and now he's got 15 #1 hits and 5 Grammy Awards, and he's building a camp and raising $50 million, and hopefully that camp will be going out this summer.
It's always so nice to hear when people give back, especially when you have stars and singers, and you know what? And it's not all this fluff that we hear with Kardashians. And anyway, we're not going to go there. That's not what this show is about today. So let me ask you, when a parent hears that your child is in the autism spectrum, or they may have something, how do they sort it out? There's, what is the autism spectrum? What's that mean? I'm sure they go, what's going to happen?
Right. Yeah, these are basic questions, right? These are the questions that, like I said, it started with me as, what is happening in the brain? And even today, I'll do a lecture here tonight in Salt Lake City, and I'll be in Italy next week. And in any audience I lecture to, the first question I ask anybody in the audience is, who can tell me, what is actually happening in the brain in any of these issues? And the fact is that no one will raise their hand. No one, still to this day, most of the professionals that work with these kids don't know what the actual problem is. They can list a bunch of symptoms or behaviors, but they don't know what the actual problem is. And without understanding that, you really don't understand, what realistically can be expected, what can be done. So, with me, that's where it all started. And so the bottom line is that all of these issues, to one degree or another, are really certain developmental delays and developmental imbalances in certain brain networks. And there is no damage, there is no injury, there is no pathology in the brain. We hear a lot of these things described as brain injury. They're not. They are these developmental issues where certain areas of the brain are just not growing at the rate that they should, and other areas of the brain, partly to compensate, grow too much. And so what we see is this unevenness of skills, which is something I read early on, that, a lot of these kids, they're not delayed in everything, that they're actually really good or even exceptional or even a genius or savant level in certain skills, but they really struggle in others. And, the better they are in certain skills, the worse they are in others. And the more disabled they are, the more impaired they are. And that's been known for years, but nobody could really explain why. So my work is the first work to really explain what's happening and why it happens. And one of my books is also about how to prevent it. But also, most importantly, how to change it, how to reverse it, and in many cases, completely correct these issues.
Oh, you know what? Parents can benefit so much from everything that you're doing because, I was talking at the beginning of the show, when you're a new parent, you don't know because you never did it. It's a new job. Excuse me. So tell me, I deal with new and toddler parents, and it's time for them to eat. we're going to have a break in about 3 minutes, so if this is really long, we can talk about something else. But my big question is, it's time to start them on solid food. And, where do we start? Parents work, they go and they get processed foods, or they don't have time to cook, or they, who knows? We always started our babies on fruit. Now it's different. You start your babies on vegetables, because once they taste the sugar, why would they want to eat peas?
Right.
So It's interesting for new parents. Where do they start so they don't get to this place? Or if their child does have something, I guess they wouldn't know this early. Maybe they would.
Well, they might. And that's one of the things that I really try to emphasize in all my books. And, the most important thing for brain development is actually movement and engaging the senses with the environment. And what we find is one of the reasons why we see such an epidemic rise of these issues is kids don't move as much anymore, when they're, especially at younger and younger ages. But one of the things that we see is that if a child isn't hitting their developmental milestones, that's a real big red flag. So one of the first things that a lot of parents will find, and maybe not even be pointed out, but that there may be difficulty with breastfeeding right from day one. And they're told that it's because the baby has low muscle tone in their mouth, and they can't suck. And this is what I hear a lot from mothers who, wanted to breastfeed and couldn't. And later on, their child ended up being diagnosed with some sort of issue. And that was really an early warning signal right then and there, because most of these issues start in the womb, or at least the beginnings of them start in the womb. And so what we see is that that's one thing. Then at 3 to 5 months, the baby should be rolling over to both sides equally. And then obviously they should be on their belly, and they should be, crawling like a Marine, and then they should get on all fours, and, then they should get up and walk at 1 year of age. And these are very, very narrow windows. And if there's any delay, or if they do it in an unusual way, if they crawl on their butt, or, roll around, or drag their leg and they don't crawl normally, or they skip crawling altogether, all of those things are big red flags that say, hey, something's happening with my child's brain development. And the earlier I can jump in and do something, the easier it's going to be, and the more difference I can make, and the more likely I am to completely reverse this.
Pretty scary. Well, big red flag. We have to break for a commercial. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this topic. It's so interesting. Thank you for being on the show. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Welcome to Geraldine Tegelove Live, the show that shares with you the secrets of redefining, reinventing, and rebuilding your life. Having pulled herself from the rubble of financial ruin and having gone on to create a highly successful career, Geraldine has become an expert in the art of transformation. She believes that it doesn't matter where you are right now, how overwhelmed you feel, or how impossible the task of turning your life around may seem. You can do it. Stay tuned as metaphysician, international best-selling author, and intuitive Geraldine Tegelove gives you the inner understanding and the outer practical how-to to create your amazing life. Gain a fresh perspective on how to redefine, reinvent, and rebuild your life. Join Geraldine Tegelove live every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the TogiNet Radio Network.
Harvey McKay, author of the best-selling book, Use Your Head to Get Your Foot in the Door, includes job search secrets no one else will tell you. Harvey is a true ideopraxist. That's a person who puts ideas into practice. Harvey admits landing the right job can be more difficult than the job itself. And successful people can't have phonophobia. That's the fear of work. But in these economic times, it can be a necessity to make money any way you can. What's a word for using any means to make money? Homo de quinquis. So what's the best job to have? Will Rogers once said, the best job in the country is the vice president. All he has to do is get up every day and ask, how is the president?
It's It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. Thanks for tuning in. I am talking to my wonderful guest, the author of The Disconnected Kids Nutrition Plan, Proven Strategies to Enhance Learning and Focus for Children with Autism, ADHD, Dyslexia, and Other Neurological Disorders. His name is Dr. Robert Melillo. He's the co-founder and creator of many brain balance achievement centers. And I have to tell you, Dr. Melillo, your tips are so interesting because we were talking during the break how all these things start with the brain. That it's not the foods, and It's not if I change, if I don't give my child milk, then he'll get better.
Right.
And to understand it, when parents don't understand, it's hard to change things. So what do you do when a parent says, my child can't eat this food, or they're little? I just started him on table food, and I give him cheese, and it really irritates him.
Well, again, it depends on what they mean by it's irritated. It depends on, whether the child is a picky eater or refuses to eat it, or whether there's an actual reaction to it. Either one of those things is alarming because, when a child has a reaction to a food, like an allergy or food sensitivity, which is even harder for parents to know, that's not normal. It's never normal. Allergies and food sensitivities are never normal. It always signifies that there's something wrong with the immune system. And you have to question, why is there something wrong with the immune system, especially in a little baby or a toddler? And, usually this also comes along with something going on with the digestive system, where they may have colic, or they may, have a problem with their bowel movements, or they may, have what we call a leaky gut. And so, again, you have to say, well, why is their immune system not working properly, and why are they so sensitive, and why do they have digestive issues? And as you just mentioned, what most parents are never told is that it really starts with the brain, meaning that, when we see that, children have certain food reactions, a lot of times it's related to what we call a leaky gut, where their digestive system starts off immature, and it should develop and it should mature like the rest of the body. And this is really dependent on the brain. And if the brain isn't maturing, then the digestive system stays relatively immature, and it doesn't really become as protective a barrier as it should, and it doesn't work as well as it should. So, this is important because this is often what leads to things like gluten sensitivity and dairy sensitivity and food sensitivities. In the book, I describe how parents can identify those things. And, in the world of kids with various types of disabilities, whether they're severe or mild, we know that there are a lot of food issues, that food sensitivities and leaky gut and digestive problems and bowel problems are, there in almost every kid. But in all of the other books, it's really what makes this book unique. And in all of the other books, they really look at it and say those problems actually are what caused the brain issue. That's why the child is having problems learning, or that's why the problem, why they have ADHD or attention problems. But what I've been able to show in our research that it's the other way around the majority of the time, that the brain isn't developing, the brain is out of balance, and when the brain is out of balance and immature in certain areas, then the immune system is out of balance, the digestive system is out of balance, the hormones can be out of balance, and that is what leads to the leaky gut and the immune problem and the food sensitivities. And the good news is that when you understand that and you do things to get the brain back into balance, all of those other things can go away, and they don't have to be on special vitamins and diets the rest of their life.
Can you change that in an adult or maybe a teenager, or you have to get to this when they're little?
Oh, no. You can change it at any age, especially if it's related to what's happening in the brain. And you can also develop them at any age, right? So many people and adults I'll talk to will say, I never had any sort of problems with foods, and now there's a lot of foods I can't eat, or I can't digest, or or have sensitivities to. And that may signify that, listen, our brain can be dysfunctional. Right now, we live in a society where we don't really support our brain function because, like I said, the most important thing for brain activity in development and even to sustain it through our life is movement. It's motor activity. As we get older, we become more dependent on brain activity. But, we're sitting in front of computers and kids are playing video games and, we're all on our iPhones and our iPads and our computers and we don't move anymore. That's why we see so much in obesity and diabetes. And it's the same problem. And because when you see those things, you have to think, well, it's also affecting the brain.
That's really interesting because that's what we see, and I talk all the time about put the phone down, put the phone down, put the phone down. We used to go outside and play, and we don't do that anymore. The kids don't go outside; they're inside.
They don't do that, right? And that's a big
Let
issue.
me ask you another question. You were talking about the beginning, when the babies can't breastfeed. Can any of this pass through the breast milk to the baby, and can they develop a sensitivity to what the mom, if the mom has some issues?
Absolutely. What we know is that even in the womb, if there are problems with them, if the mother's brain is out of balance and her, autonomic system, usually what we see is that if the mom's brain, and even if the dad's brain, it alters the way genes are going to be expressed. Mm-hmm. But what can happen is that it will increase her stress hormone levels in her body. So she'll have more stress hormones in her body. And we know that can affect brain development in the womb, especially in boys, even more than girls. And we know that, if there's, just like we know if there's a lot of inflammation in her body, that some of this can pass through her body and also even through breast milk and might be able to even trigger because there are antibodies. And what we see is that what food sensitivities are is that we have developed antibodies against foods that we shouldn't develop. So we develop antibodies against gluten, and we develop antibodies against anything. And what can happen is those antibodies can also turn on our own body, and we can develop autoimmune problems. This is what we see with Hashimoto's and thyroid disease and all of these issues. And again, the things that regulate whether the antibodies are hypersensitive is really your brain and what's happening in the immune system itself. And antibodies are early warning signs, meaning they are what target the immune system to attack. So if you have antibodies against foods and you eat those foods and you have a leaky gut and that gets into your bloodstream, your antibodies are going to target those things and then your immune system is going to attack it and you're going to develop this chronic inflammation in your body, and that's what's going to happen in your baby's body. And that this can also even affect the brain.
That's really interesting. Let's talk about gluten for a minute. Everybody is allergic to gluten now. I mean, it's the big new hype word. We need gluten-free everything. How do you know if you actually do have a gluten sensitivity?
Right. Well, first of all, again, there's a difference between allergy and sensitivity. An allergic response is, a obvious response. It's what's called an immediate hypersensitivity. And, pretty much if your child has it and you have it, you have an allergy, right? Mm-hmm. But a sensitivity is something that isn't an allergic response. It's an inflammatory response. And there aren't a lot of outward signs, especially in kids. It doesn't cause watery eyes or runny nose or belly pain. It may just cause bad behavior. It may just cause irritability, or they can't sleep, or they can't concentrate. So the only way to really know if you're sensitive is to test for it. So there's different ways to test for it. One way is there are blood tests that look for what we call IgG antibodies. And if you have these antibodies and they're there, then there may be a good chance that you have a sensitivity. But even that isn't 100%. The best way to really identify is to eliminate foods for a period of time, for at least 4 weeks, and to see if you feel better, or see if the child's behavior gets better. So if you eliminate foods, and what we usually do in my book, I list the 10 foods that make up 90% of all food sensitivities. And so what I encourage parents to do is to eliminate those foods. They don't have to do it all at once, but they eliminate those foods for at least 4 weeks and watch what happens to their child's behavior. And if it improves, then they know that one of those foods is probably triggering a food sensitivity. And then what they can do is one at a time they reintroduce the foods in a very specific way that I described. And if the child's behavior comes back, or, again, if they have trouble sleeping again, or whatever it may be, then they know that that food is triggering an immune response, and they need to leave it out for a period of time, or at least until they get their brain and their gut working properly. And so what we see is that, the whole gluten craze really started in the autism community. Those were the first parents, autism and ADHD. And I don't believe that everybody should be on gluten-free. There is something about the gluten molecule that's different now, and it's harder to digest and more likely to trigger autoimmune responses. But if your gut is working and your brain is working and your immune is in balance, most people can eat gluten without any problem whatsoever. But if you have a problem in your brain and your gut and your immune system, then, the most likely food to trigger is gluten and casein, which is the protein found in dairy.
Right. So that's really interesting. So, like if you're going to give your child a piece of bread or something else, their behavior may change. And it sounds like it's healing the brain if you take these foods out, if I'm understanding you correctly. And it doesn't seem to be that hard. The 10 food sensitivities, everybody should get this book. You know what? Not because your child has an issue. While you're pregnant, great reading material while you're pregnant. I think every parent should know about this because it shows the red flags, but then you also know, my child doesn't have this, or this is what I need to do. Anyway, the book is called The Disconnected Kids Nutrition Plan, Proven Strategies to Enhance Learning, Focus for Children with Autism, ADHD, Dyslexia, and Other Neurological Disorders. And it has some great recipes in the back, besides all the information that Dr. Melillo is sharing with us about the brain and how everything's connected. When we come back from the commercial break, we are going to talk a little more about this with Dr. Melillo, and he's going to tell us where to get the book, his favorite parenting tips since he's a dad, and so much more. Dr. Melillo, I hope you'll come back because there's so many questions, but here comes the music, so stay with us.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I am so excited to have Dr. Robert Melillo on the show. He has a wonderful book, The Disconnected Kids Nutrition Plan. Tell my listeners where they can get your book.
They can get it on Amazon. They can also go to my website, drrobertmelillo.com, or they could go to Brain Balance's website, brainbalancecenters.com, and they can get it through all that. Plus, any major bookstore will be carrying the book.
And I will put all that information on mybestparentingadvice.com, so you can listen to the show and also find Dr. Melillo. And it's a great book. Great book. Everybody should have this book that's a parent. Even if you're not a parent, if you're a grandparent, it's really interesting. Wonderful information. So we're up to the last part of the show. But before we talk a little more about what you're doing, do you have a favorite parenting tip?
Well, I have a lot of them. I've been thinking about this, but I have a lot of them. Number one would be, keep your children away from any computer technology until probably at least 6. But as it works in regard to this book and what we're talking about, this is something that I think is pretty fascinating that most people have no idea about. But as you know, all kids are kind of picky eaters, right? But kids with various developmental disabilities are known to be obsessively picky eaters. And parents really struggle. I mean, many of them are what we even call problem feeders. I talk about it in the book. And so, why is it? Is it just that coincidental? But one of the reasons that I've found throughout the years is that most of these children have a completely abnormal or absent sense of smell. That they really, kids with autism, many of them, they don't even know how to sniff. They blow out if they try to smell something. And, we all choose food by how it tastes and smells, but kids that don't have a taste and smell, they choose it by how it looks or how it feels in their mouth or the temperature. And they're so picky about what they'll eat. They'll only eat certain textures, and parents will try to behaviorally manage this, and it drives them crazy. Now, the only way to change this is by changing the brain. This is a brain thing because you smell and taste in your brain, not in your mouth or your nose. And especially on the right side of the brain, this is very important. So I talk about in the book how you can you can test if your child has a sense of smell, because most parents, if your baby doesn't or your child doesn't smell and they haven't had a normal sense of smell since they were born, nobody knows this, right? How are you going to know it as a parent?
No, they can't tell you.
Right. So what we know is that you can stimulate that sense of smell by doing what I call a smell game. And when you do that, what happens is not only do they start to choose foods that they would have never eaten before, but what's really interesting is that also what we often see is their social skills automatically change. They start having better eye contact. They're able to have better nonverbal communication. And when you think about it, how do animals socialize with one another? They socialize through smell. Well, the basic social networks in the right side of the brain that are underdeveloped or underactive in autism and Asperger's and ADHD are built on smell networks. So when we get those sense of smell networks active, what we see is their social skills change pretty dramatically as well. So, that's something that I think every parent should be aware. And I've had so many kids especially if they're really obsessively picky eaters and really fussy, make sure they have a normal sense of smell and stimulate that sense of smell by, having them, smell different things and asking them what it is or playing with them. And they love it and it's fun, but it makes a huge difference.
That's interesting because I'm sitting here thinking I had the flu and I kept saying I can't stand this because I can't taste anything. And I can't imagine having to, the first 3 or 4 years not being able to taste things but not knowing it because you wouldn't know. That is really interesting. I mean, we always used to play the taste game with my kids, we used to blindfold them and then give them something to taste and say, what is that? And many times they'd get it. So this is
and that's
so
great
interesting.
Too. You can't taste if you can't smell. So as you experienced with your flu, and you can see that your desire for food was less, and maybe foods that you normally would like, you didn't really want them as much. And so, it doesn't make sense when parents, they say, why don't they like these foods? And then what you see is that all of a sudden it changes when the smell. But again, this is all part of the brain and making sure the brain is developing and working properly. We have done literally tens of thousands of these tests. And the funny thing is that nobody else does it. Nobody ever checks the sense of smell. I've had kids that have gone with failure to thrive to feeding clinics, in major universities, and they come back and I say to the parent, did they check their sense of smell? And they never do. And it's such a simple thing, and it's such a, it just makes common sense. But it's an important thing. So that's a tip I think parents should really look at.
Yeah, no, the pediatricians need to know that. And I kept saying, my brain is starving, but I can't taste anything. So I can only imagine when you're a little, guy or little girl and you can't say that, but food is like, bleh. Tell me a little bit before the end of the show about xylitol, because we've always heard that xylitol causes diarrhea and it's not good. And I know, a few of your recipes have xylitol in your book. Can you tell my listeners what xylitol is and why it's okay?
Yeah. Well, xylitol is just another, it's kind of an artificial sweetener to a certain extent, but it has a lot of the similar properties as sugar. It's kind of like you have to choose your poison, right?
Right.
Do you want to put sugar in there, which we know has a lot of issues and creates a lot of issues and raises, the glycemic index? Or do we want to put in something there that maybe doesn't raise blood sugar as much? So, that's the balance that we're trying to find. We want it to be sweet and taste good so that kids are going to eat it. But by the other token, we know that, we want to avoid sugar as much as possible. I mean, there's a lot that we know lately about sugar. So, xylitol is one of those substitutes. It doesn't, I found that it really doesn't cause diarrhea or usually cause stomach issues as much, especially when you mix it in certain foods like we've done. All of these foods, for the most part, that all the recipes that are in my book have come mostly from our centers and from moms.
Parents,
so they've been pretty proven. They've been, used on lots of kids. And or people like Zach Brown or other people that have contributed to this book that are real experts in working with these types of issues. And so again, we're trying to make sure that we avoid things in this diet that will trigger immune responses, gluten, dairy, and other things. And sugar is one of the things that kids with disabilities don't really tolerate very well. So, we haven't found it to be an issue. And, again, it gets the children to eat the food.
And the recipes look great. I mean, you have desserts, you have vegetables, you have everything in here, and they look really easy, like the Art Cafe banana bread, blueberry muffins. It sounds like you don't have to give up things; you just have to make them healthier. And they're really great. And I'll tell you, one of the things in the book that really makes it special is I met this woman a few years ago named Donna Teixeira. She was a well-known chef in L.A., good friends with Jenny McCarthy, and make a long story short, she had spent many years formulating flours. Now, anybody that's cooked gluten-free knows that the key to it is how you mix different flours to try to get it like wheat. And that's a really, that's like a big mystery. And I've met a lot of people try to do it, but nobody usually gets it right. And it's different for bread versus pizza dough versus cakes. So this woman, Donna, she had come up with these formulas that were incredible. She had spent years, and they were the best. She was one of Oprah's chefs as well. She was on Oprah's show all the time. And so she was semi-retired, and she was with me somewhere, and I said to her,
where can I read about these formulas? And she said, nowhere. I never wrote them down. I never did a book. And I said, well, I'm doing a book right now, and all the money's going to go to Zach Brown's camp. Would you want to donate some of these recipes? And she said, yeah, I'll give you all of them. So she has a chapter in the book where she's put those formulas for how to mix these flours in a way that is better than anything I've ever seen out there. And you can't find it anywhere else but in this book. So
and I'm looking at
alone,
it. I'm looking at it, and it's really easy. I have so many things in this book because I wanted to make some of these recipes. But anyway, I have to let you go. We're at the end of the show. I am so excited you've been on. I would love to have you back. There's so much more to talk about. And thank you. You're a great guest. Let me know when there's centers in Arizona. I will pass it on every place where I live.
I will, absolutely. Thank you.
Enjoy your book tour, and I will put all your information on my website. So you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Great. You too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Wow, what a great show. From peanut butter and wine to all this wonderful information. Next week, my guest will be Harper Jones from BowTiger.com. It is a company that specializes in toddler safety. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. I'm every place, and Periscope, and, of course, mybestparentingadvice.com. You can always contact me via that. So today I would like to end the show the same way I've done for 7 years, honoring mothers since Mother's Day is Sunday. Why mothers cry? The little boy says, why are you crying? He asked his mom. Because I'm a mother, she told him. I don't understand, he said. His mom just hugged him and said, you never will. Later, the little boy asked his father why mothers seemed to be crying for no reason. All mothers cry for no reason, was all his dad could say. The little boy grew up and became a man and still wondering why mothers cried. So finally, he put a call into God. And when God got on the phone, the man said, God, why do mothers cry so easily? God said, you see, son, when I made mothers, they had to be special. I made their shoulders strong enough to carry the weight of the world, yet gently enough to give comfort. I gave them an inner strength to endure childbirth and the rejection that many times come from their children. I gave them a hardiness that allows them to keep going when everyone else gives up and to take care of their families through sickness and fatigue without complaining. I gave them sensitivity to love their children under all circumstances, even when their child has hurt them very badly. This same sensitivity helps them to make a child's boo-boo feel better and helps them share a teenager's anxieties and fears. I gave them a tear to shed. It's theirs exclusively to use whenever it's needed. It's their only weakness, and it's a tear for mankind. So I want to send wonderful Mother's Day hugs and wishes from me to you. Be proud if you're a mom as your families honor you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.